Have you ever picked up a smartphone, turned on a light, or poured yourself a glass of clean water and thought for a moment, how old is this idea really? We live in an age of staggering innovation, but what if I told you that many of the things we depend on every single day were not born in Silicon Valley, but in civilizations that flourished thousands of years ago? Behind every ordinary action you take is an extraordinary ancestor, an ancient invention that shaped the way you live, breathe, eat, and communicate. And tonight, we're traveling deep into the forgotten chapters of human ingenuity to uncover the greatest ancient inventions you still use today. Let's begin with a story. Imagine the city of Uruk around 3200 BCE in the land of Mesopotamia. The sun burns down on clay houses while merchants haggle noisily over sacks of barley. But trade is growing, the city is thriving. And suddenly, a problem emerges. How do you keep track of debts, promises, and payments when memory alone is not enough? A simple clay token pressed with marks becomes the solution. Over time, those marks evolve into cuneiform writing, the very first written language. From a scratched line in clay tablets grew the contracts, novels, love letters, and even this very script you're hearing. Without writing, knowledge would die with each generation. With it, human memory became immortal. But here's the twist. Writing wasn't invented to tell grand stories or record epic myths. It was invented to solve a mundane problem, counting sheep and measuring grain. It was bookkeeping that gave birth to literature. That incomplete loop, the humble clay tablet, turned into the written word and eventually gave you the messages you text and the tweets you scroll. Every keystroke on your phone is a whisper from Mesopotamia. While scribes etched marks into clay, far across the ancient world, another civilization was discovering the lifeblood of cities: water engineering. Ancient Rome is often celebrated for its military might, but its greatest achievement might be its aqueducts. Picture an arch rising out of the countryside, channeling mountain springs into the heart of the city. Rome's fountains, public baths, and even apartment plumbing were made possible by these gravity-defying marvels. The sound of rushing water wasn't just refreshment, it was civilization itself. And yet, Rome didn't invent the idea from scratch. Long before them, Persians created the canal system, underground tunnels that carried cool water across arid deserts. Some of these canals are still functioning after 2,500 years. Imagine that. As you twist open your kitchen faucet, you're unknowingly reenacting a ritual first performed in ancient Persia. Clean running water was a revolutionary idea, one that turned survival into society. But water leads us naturally to another invention we can't live without: sanitation. The idea that waste needed to be carried away, not left to fester, might sound obvious to us, but in much of history it wasn't. Ancient Mohenjo-Daro in the Indus Valley had something astonishing for a city built 4,500 years ago. Indoor toilets connected to a sewage system. Streets were laid out with drains that carried waste outside city walls. In other words, long before modern skyscrapers, ancient engineers were protecting citizens from deadly disease with pipes and sewers. And here's the haunting part. When Mohenjo-Daro collapsed, much of that knowledge vanished. For centuries afterward, humanity regressed into filth, until Rome revived sanitation on a massive scale, and then centuries later, the modern world finally caught up. Now take a breath, because where there's water and sanitation, there's food, and food requires one of the simplest, yet most transformative inventions in human history: the plow. It doesn't sound glamorous, does it? A piece of wood dragged through soil, but consider this. Before the plow, farming was done by hand, painfully slow and limited. With the plow, people harnessed animals, broke the earth wide open, and produced more grain than ever before. Surplus food meant bigger populations, specialized trades, standing armies, and cities. In short, the plow carved civilization into the soil. And the plow's descendant? The tractor that plows the fields feeding you today. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Farming gave rise to abundance, but abundance needed protection. Enter one of the oldest inventions of defense and survival: metal weapons. Around 3000 BCE, the the discovery of bronze, an alloy of copper and tin, was nothing less than alchemy to ancient eyes. Stronger than stone, sharper than bone, bronze created empires. Swords, spears, and armor became not just tools of war, but symbols of power. And yet, while bronze weapons shattered enemies, they also carved out another invention still in your hands today: currency. Bronze ingots, cast into shapes and standardized weights, became some of the earliest forms of money. Imagine that. The same material that killed also bought bread. Speaking of money, let's pause on one invention that may shock you with its endurance: coins. The first known coins appeared in the Kingdom of Lydia around 600 BCE. They were stamped with lions and symbols of kings, made of a naturally occurring mix of gold and silver called electrum. For the first time, wealth could be standardized, portable, and trusted. The idea spread like wildfire through Greece, Persia, Rome, and beyond. And now, think about the coins in your pocket or the numbers in your bank account. They are echoes of an idea born 2,600 years ago. But what about communication beyond money and writing? Enter another miracle of invention: paper. Around 105 CE in China, a court official named Kai Lun refined a method of pulping plant fibers into thin sheets. Compared to clay tablets, papyrus scrolls, or animal skins, paper was light, cheap, and abundant. Paper became the bedrock of bureaucracy, science, and art. But here's the twist: paper's rise was slow. For centuries, people resisted it, preferring parchment. It wasn't until the Islamic Golden Age, after the capture of Chinese papermakers at the Battle of Talas in 751 CE, that paper spread westward. By the time it reached Europe, it would trigger revolutions: religious, scientific, and political. And yet today, in an age of glowing screens, paper is still here, stubborn, indispensable, a 2,000-year-old invention refusing to die. Now think about another everyday miracle: glass. The shimmering window you look through, the lenses of your glasses, the screen of your phone. Glass was first created by accident: sand and ash heated in a fire around 2000 BCE, likely in Mesopotamia or Egypt. At first, it was opaque and decorative, used for beads. But as techniques advanced, glass turned transparent, and with transparency came vision. Literally. Lenses revealed the stars to Galileo, cells to scientists, and the world to all of us. Without ancient glass, there would be no telescopes, no microscopes, no eyeglasses, and yes, no smartphones. But let's not forget one invention so ancient, so simple, and so universal that it's almost invisible: the wheel. The oldest known wheel dates back to around 3,500 BCE in Mesopotamia. Yet the first wheels weren't used for transportation, but pottery. Only later were they attached to carts, revolutionizing travel, warfare, and trade. What's more fascinating is how late the wheel appeared in history. Civilizations like the Inca built great empires without them. But once the wheel rolled, it never stopped. Every car, every bicycle, every airplane landing gear is a descendant of that first wooden disc. The wheel is not just an invention, it's a metaphor for progress itself. And if the wheel carried people across land, another invention carried them across knowledge: the calendar. Ancient Egyptians studied the flooding of the Nile, noticing patterns tied to the stars, and devised a 365-day year. The Maya, too, created stunningly precise calendars that aligned with celestial events. Without calendars, there is no agriculture, no taxation, no birthdays, no history. You are living not just by the hours of your watch, but by a framework invented thousands of years ago to make sense of the case of time. Yet some inventions were less visible but equally critical. Numbers themselves. The Babylonians, with base 60 mathematics, gave us 60 minutes in an hour, 360 degrees in a circle. The Indians gave us zero, that humble nothing that makes modern mathematics possible. Every calculation you do, every code that runs, is resting on the shoulders of an idea so abstract it almost feels divine. Numbers are not just inventions, they are the language of the universe. And let's complete our circle with perhaps the most powerful invention of all: law. The Code of Hammurabi, carved into stone around 1750 BCE, set down rules for justice, property, and punishment. An eye for an eye may sound harsh, but for the first time, law was no longer the whim of kings. It was written, fixed, and visible to all. From Hammurabi to modern constitutions, the idea that society must follow rules written on tablets, parchment, or digital screens is one of the oldest and most enduring inventions in history. So here's the payoff. When you sip water, write a note, plow a field, spend a coin, read a book, gaze through glasses, or check the time, you are not living in the present. You are living inside a cathedral built by countless generations of inventors, stretching back to forgotten cities and long-dead hands. The greatest ancient inventions are not relics. They are living shadows surrounding you, guiding you, shaping the very way you exist. And that's the loop, the realization that we are not as modern as we think. We are ancient creatures in modern skins. The inventions of our ancestors are still here, disguised, evolved, yet eternal. If you found yourself fascinated by this journey into the past, remember there are countless more stories waiting to be told. To uncover them with us, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an episode. This is Time's Battlefield, where the past is never truly gone. It's just hiding in plain sight.